Hello, everybody, and welcome into this week's 30 Minutes program. My guest today is the Chief of the University of Tennessee at Martin. He has another title, but that's what he is, and that's Chief O'Neill. And I got to tell you that I like this guy a whole lot. And the reason that I like him is because he's so approachable, and he really, really does care greatly about the University of Tennessee at Martin. Chief, first off, I just want to get to a couple of things. And the most important thing that you made a decision was to focus on safety on the campus. And that's been going on now since you started here.
Yes, sir. It's been almost 2 years now since I came in. We've tried to increase the size of our department and get some more proactive officers out there, but we've been focusing on campus safety, traffic safety, crosswalk safety, getting people to understand in case of emergency, call 911 versus calling our non-emergency number. And if they see an issue, to contact someone to, if they see something, say something.
Now, most people know that you haven't been here took a job somewhere else for a while, and then you decided to come to West Tennessee. The fact that you're living in Weakley County makes a statement, I think, to a lot of people, because they want to keep the Chief of Police, Chief Michael O'Neill. And what's the difference between them and where we are today?
As far as where I came from versus here in Weakley County, I came from St. Paul, Minnesota, and it's a lot warmer here. There's a completely different climate here, and I don't mean weather climate, but people here are more approachable, nicer in general, more likely to talk to you than I would see up in Minnesota. But I also came from a large metropolitan area to a fairly rural area. And I don't live in Martin. I live outside of Martin in Weakley County, and I find it kind of funny that people...
You live north of Dresden.
I live north of Dresden, and people tell me, boy, you're way out there. And I thought Martin was kind of rural, but I guess I'm very rural in comparison to the city of Martin itself. But it's been a really, really positive change for my wife and I, coming from the environment that we were in up in Minnesota, coming down here to West Tennessee has been nothing but positive. I couldn't get my wife to move out of here if I tried. I couldn't get her out of here dragging and screaming. She loves it here. So do I.
Well, that's good for UT Martin. It's good for our community. Let me jump into a couple of things. What have you been able to get done after being here for a period of time? When I say get done, projects that need to be established and they need to come into play.
Well, I think my first thing was rebuilding the police department on campus. The Department of Public Safety at UT Martin was supported, but it had gotten to the point where it was understaffed. Officers were undertrained, and morale, honestly, at the time when I came in was pretty low because of that. We've gotten the department.
Did you know that was going on when you came in here?
No, sir. I did not, and even my boss, the person that hired me, even admitted that she wasn't aware of where things were at the time. So it was a bit of a surprise for all of us, but we emphasized hiring quality people, and we've gotten to the point now where I have a full staff of police officers, a good civilian staff on top of that, so that we're able to keep the campus covered 24 hours a day. We're able to respond more quickly to things, and we have much better trained, more proactive and responsive officers than we had before. So we've built that up over the past 2 years. You know, there's always the ups and downs of we hire a few people and then we lose a person and then we hire a person, but we've got ourselves to the point of being fully staffed. We've really emphasized training for the officers. The university is a very positive area, and I have officers that are good at community relations, you know, being out there, being the face of the department for the students, and really working on relationship building. But at the same time, we have to train our officers just like every other police department, we have to train our officers to be able to respond to serious critical incidents. And we've been emphasizing that too.
I don't know that the things that you've done, but I know you've done some things to make it safer. What are those things?
Well, we have, again, the human side of things.
I'm going to interrupt you for one thing. I think the first thing, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but it seems to me that you had to build up the police department before you can start doing these other things. Am I right?
Yeah, the human side of things is getting the people in place, the right people in place to be able to do that job. Not just the police officers, the supervisors, the staff that we didn't have before. And that had been the first thing. And the second thing was the training and the equipment for them. We've got, from the equipment standpoint, we moved over to a new radio system a little over a year ago so that we can communicate better with the city and the county and among ourselves because, well, communications is critical, and we had to improve that. So we did that. We have more vehicles than we had before so that officers aren't short on squads to respond. Again, more training. All of our department is now at the point where we're capable of training ourselves. We've sent instructors to instructor schools for various things so that we can provide in-house training and we can keep up training rather than doing the bare minimum state requirement. Our officers get well above and beyond that requirement. But at the same time, we've also been working closely with the city and the county to train together. And that was another thing. I think it was something that the department's always tried to do. Just we're trying to improve that relationship between the other agencies, because in the event of a critical incident on campus, I'm be honest, my department's not going to be enough to deal with a critical incident. We have to have assistance from the city. We have to have assistance from the county. Just yesterday, we did training with the City of Martin Police Department on campus. They came over, did their in-service with us, doing defensive tactics, doing medical training, doing active violence response training on campus so that we had the opportunity to work together, get familiar with the buildings on campus so that if there was a real-world incident, they know where to go, they know what the buildings are, how the buildings are designed, and they know how to respond to an incident.
I know you well enough just in knowing you for this short period of time that we've known each other, but you've been in every building in that campus.
Yes, sir. I still don't know every nook and cranny, though, because there's a lot of nooks and crannies. What comes to mind, and I've got a half a dozen easy questions, but this one right here caught my attention. When Middle Tennessee State University had a tornado warning with high school basketball going on, we're talking about an area that was full, and the next thing you know, you got to clear that house and get them into the safe room. Mm-hmm. Do we have safe rooms? We have a couple of places on campus where we tell people to go to shelter in the event of an emergency like a tornado. The inside of the university center is one of them, for example. The housing buildings, the hallways of housing, and the Elam Center, actually, which that would be where we would have, if we had basketball going on, something like that, you'd have a large number of people in there. Those are very sturdy, secure buildings, so that's where we would end up telling people to shelter in them. As far as safe rooms within those buildings, no, because the way the buildings are designed, the brick buildings, they're as safe as you can get for a large number of people.
You don't expect a tornado, but you've got to expect a tornado.
Right. That's another thing I've learned in my 2 years here in West Tennessee. They're a lot more frequent.
Yeah, and I think, people are beginning to either A, they get it, okay, or B, that's not going to hurt us. I mean, you have to make sure that the students on campus, the educators, administrators, and all of those people, you've got to make sure they understand when we've got one, we need to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
I don't know how hard that is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, everybody would expect you to be in charge of a tornado, and that's a big help right there.
Yes. We have a alert system on campus. It's called RAVE, that everybody, all the new students, all staff and faculty are signed up for automatically. And when there's a weather alert or there's critical concern on campus, it goes out to everybody's phones and email, actually, if they have their email set up, so they get instant notification. That's on top of the tornado sirens and things like that the city have and run.
Chief, I know your expectations, and they're very high, but I also know that you can't do it all. You talked about that town-gown relationship with the police department in Martin, and, of course, the sheriff's department in Dresden and Greenfield and Sharon and so forth. But there is always that worry about, is my child safe on this campus? Is my spouse safe on this campus? And, we don't have very many problems on this campus. We've been very fortunate many, many times over, unlike what we see on television, on the 6 o'clock news and so forth. So.
Well, there's always that possibility anywhere, and all we can do is prepare ourselves the best to respond to anything that happens, but you can't prevent things from happening anywhere. We've got a very safe campus. We strive to keep it as a very safe campus.
UT Martin's had a lot of accolades about how safe it is.
Right, but that doesn't mean that something bad can't happen, and that's where we have to train for that contingency.
One of the things that you've talked about in the past, but at the same time you were still working on things. How many cameras do you have on campus now?
Well, that's top secret, sir. I can't tell you that. We have somewhere along the lines of 600
That was good,
plus
by the way. That was
cameras.
Good. How many?
Over 600 cameras.
It's an incredible number.
And I've been to other campuses, bigger campuses, obviously, but I've been to other campuses where the numbers are well over 1,000. And you always find that no matter how many cameras you have, you find spots that you wish you had a camera. We got a grant last year where I've been working on purchasing new cameras, putting in some areas to cover more areas on campus. Cameras are a force multiplier. They don't preclude having to do good police work, doing good investigations. Cameras are no good if you don't have somebody watching the cameras, but they do wonders to solve crimes, to deter crime, and we just have to make sure that they're in the right place and that people are watching them.
If you've just joined us, we've got the University of Tennessee at Martin Chief of Police. He is the chief as we know him, but your title is a little different, Michael O'Neill.
I'm the Director of Public Safety and the Chief of Police because I'm my own boss in that role. As the Chief of Police, I have to approve things, and then the Director of Public Safety has to approve it above that, and then it goes on, up the chain of command. So I hold two titles. And the Director of Public Safety puts me responsible for the campus police and traffic management, our parking side of things, which everybody hates me for.
You still giving tickets?
Oh, we're giving tickets all the time.
They're on the yellow line?
I understand there's always problems, especially at the beginning of a semester, with parking spaces, and we have different parking lots that are designated for staff, for faculty, for students. Mm-hmm. The biggest concerns I have are with handicap parking and fire lanes, because those are the things that become a safety concern rather than just a parking issue. People are leaving their car in a fire lane if there's an emergency and an ambulance or an engine can't get in there because of that's an obstruction. That's something that we have to do something about. And handicap spaces are for people with disabilities that need them, not for someone's convenience when they want to park close to a building. So that's where we really emphasize. We write tickets for that, and you're going to get a ticket if you park in one of them.
Yeah, and I appreciate you doing it. I get it, and I see it, and there are a lot of people that maybe even people that you and I both know that they've got to do the right things. Let's talk about patrol officers. Is that a boring job, or is that one of those things where you got to drive around and it's not, it appears as from the outside looking in. I don't see the patrol enough, but there again, I see the patrol enough,
Well,
it's like they're all the time, and then I don't ever see them, and then there they are,
30 years in law enforcement, and in the years that I worked patrol, it's a boring job some of the time, and then it's a lot of adrenaline some of the time. You keep yourself as active as you want to keep yourself. An officer that's working on a quiet campus in the evening, there might not be anything going on. That doesn't mean they can't be proactive and drive around the area, talk to people. Like I said, one of my focuses is on positive relationships between our officers and the community and the campus, and that means you don't want officers that are sitting in their car in a dark parking lot doing nothing. You want them being visible. You want them talking to people. You want them doing traffic to make sure that people are driving safely around the campus. So it's as busy as they want to be, and that's where I've been focusing on hiring officers that want to be proactive and not just want to do their time.
Mount Pelia Road, or we can talk about a lot of different places around campus, but there's a lot of high traffic, usually right around 10 minutes till the top of the hour during the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and everybody's fighting to get a car place. You're looking to find an easier, closer way to be, parking my car here because I just need to go right across over there.
Right.
So I know in that world, that's probably the highest attention of them to the ball game, I guess, when you have to make sure that those kids, those students, are not going to be run over by somebody that.
Absolutely. We have a number of crosswalks and high traffic areas that the crosswalks go across. And what I run into is that you have people speeding, University, Hanning, Montpelier, and not paying attention. And that's the problem on both ends. Drivers who are distracted, not noticing when somebody is entering a crosswalk because they're looking at their phone or they're doing their makeup or something like that. And there's state laws about hands-free driving now that people have to understand. You can't drive with the phone in your hand. It doesn't matter if it's because I'm looking at my GPS or I'm sending a message. The reason doesn't matter. It's hands-free driving in the state of Tennessee. Because if you're looking at your phone, you're not looking at the road. And if somebody walks out in front of you, you don't have time to react. At the same time, you got to understand as a pedestrian some responsibility to pay attention to what you're doing, because what I see a lot of too is people crossing the road, even when they're at the crosswalk, crossing the road with the phone in their hand. Well, you might be within your rights. You're still going to lose when a 4,000-pound car hits you. So watch, look both ways before you cross anyway for your own safety. But it's a matter of paying attention.
Does the police... Do the police at UT Martin, are they in buildings? Do they go do walkthroughs or any of those kinds of things?
They do. One of the responsibilities that we have overall as a department, and we use both police officers and student workers to do this, but we're responsible for locking up the buildings at night. So they walk through the entire campus every evening, lock the buildings, check the buildings. They're also during the day moving around all the time. They're not just in a vehicle.
I'm maybe asking the wrong question, but do they come back and unlock the buildings, or do
actually, for the most part, that's done by custodial staff, unlocking in the morning.
Mm-hmm. You know, the thing about the buildings, are they well lighted at night?
Yes, we did a survey last year of lighting on campus, and we actually didn't identify any problem areas. We got a very well-lit campus, both inside and outside.
You know, there are a lot
I don't know what the electricity bill is. Luckily, that's not my responsibility.
The things that I know are close to your heart is to make sure that all the students, faculty, and anybody that comes onto that campus, how do you go about taking care of that many people with a smaller police department? I mean, quite frankly, what's the ratio from your department to how many students do we have on campus? I kind of think you need more, but I'm maybe speaking, in the wrong direction.
I agree with you, and if you could tell some people that would be...
Well, we got them right now because they listen to this program. Yeah, they will.
We always need more, and what, I talked about previously about force multipliers, about having things like cameras, because you can't have eyes everywhere all the time, but using technology to have systems in place helps a lot. Again, building the relationships and talking to people about, if you see an issue, tell us about it, because we can't be everywhere all the time. We can't catch everything. And I'm not just talking about something criminal being done. I'm talking about a safety issue. If you see something that's a safety concern, anybody on campus can report it so that we can get the right people out there to fix whatever the problem is. So you have to use the entire community.
What's the attitude of today's student?
I have, for the most part on this campus, had very positive communications with the students. I think that we have a community of students, a populace of students here who take responsibility, we don't have a lot of problems. I think that we have good students on campus, and I think they have good attitudes, and they work well with the staff and the faculty.
Are you concerned that we may have a protest of anti-Semitism, or who knows what it might be tomorrow? ICE? I mean, all kinds of stuff that's out there. That's
always a concern. That's always one of the things that we discuss, what our plans are for protests, unrest, things like that.
Have you had one here this year, or since you've been here?
No, nothing that was to cause us any issues. No. I don't know. I think that's a good thing. Bigger campuses, you see those protests. I was at UT Knoxville last year when some of the protests started with the pro-Palestine stuff going on. And the one thing that I think that they did well that we are trying to replicate is have plans and policies in place before those things start to happen, because people have their First Amendment rights. They have the right to protest. Students, staff, faculty, the public, they have their right to protest things. But you have to be able to balance that right to protest with the students' right to receive an education, that if it's disruptive of the educational process on campus, we have to do something about it. And that means we have to set parameters on, you can protest, but don't block roads, access to buildings. Like what happened at Columbia University during those protests a year and a half ago now is that the students took over an entire building at Columbia University because they let it get that far. They didn't do anything about it until it went too far. And then Columbia University called in the police, and the police had to remove people from buildings, arrest people. And then accusations were made about the police being heavy-handed, doing too much. If you put the parameters in place to start with, and you set the rules and you enforce the rules, then you're less likely to have problems. And that's what we've tried to do at UT Martin, is have those discussions, have those plans that if this happens, if we have protests, we're not going to interfere with a person's constitutional right to express themselves, as long as they understand that it has to be done within the limits of letting other people have their rights too.
We've got about 5 minutes remaining here with Chief O'Neill from the University of Tennessee at Martin. I got to tell you, there is one thing that I enjoy doing, and that is going to the Ned McWhorter Ag Pavilion when it's rodeo time. How hard is that to deal with in having not enough people on? I mean, you've got to have some more. And the reason I say that, you got 2,000 people inside that arena. That's a lot of people, and a lot of people that could get hurt.
Yeah.
Not intentionally, of course.
Again, it's a matter of coordination because we coordinate with the fire departments so that they have an ambulance there and they have personnel there in case of somebody getting hurt. We have more officers now than we had. So I had the year before last was my first rodeo, and my wife made me wear the hat that said, "This is actually my first rodeo." Last year was my second rodeo. We had more officers, so we were able to cover more than we had the previous year. But we also, again, use cooperation with other departments. The state has the Department of Agriculture. They have officers that work for the Department of Agriculture, and they sent officers here for the rodeo so that they could help us out, and also so that they could let people know that what they do and that they're available. So we used them in addition to our campus police officers to have more presence and more safety in the building.
Won't keep you long. By the way, did you get the second hat that said, "This is my second rodeo"?
No, I passed the hat off to someone else who had their first rodeo, though.
I just wanted to see if that was still good. I don't have but a couple of moments here remaining. Wish list, obviously, more police officers. Just as a reminder, school's going to be opening here real soon at UT Martin, but the one thing that I know that you're very, very focused on, and that is traffic safety on University Street. We hadn't had any conversation about it, but for that fact, around the campus or on the campus, it's a very important thing to slow down.
Exactly. Slow down and pay attention. Look at the road. Watch where you're going.
The fact that you have a police car, and I won't tell them exactly where it is, but there's a police car, and every time I drive past it, I look to see if there's somebody in there. And sometimes there is, and sometimes there isn't. Maybe they're patrolling or something. I think we all respect the authority. I really believe that most of us do. But the downside of it is you got some people that want to make trouble. And what's the process? If you have to, let's say it's alcoholism, or it could be drugism or whatever. So what do you do if you have to arrest somebody? Where does that person go? The
jail over at Weakley County. Just like with any other local police department, if we make an arrest, they're transported over to Weakley County Jail and booked in over there if it's a arrestable offense.
And they go before the General Sessions Judge in Weakley County, Tommy Moore.
Yes.
I think sometimes people think that things go away quietly, but that's not the case.
No, and the campus has been very supportive. The campus administration has been very supportive on that. That the law is the law, and it's not. We're going to give people a break. Marijuana is not legal in the state of Tennessee, and one of the problems that we run into is that we have students that come from other states where it is legal, making sure they understand that it's not legal on campus. Alcohol is not allowed in dorms and on campus either. Alcohol is not an arrestable offense or anything like that. That's a student conduct issue. We'll write it up and we'll give it to student conduct. We're not taking students to jail over having a bottle of wine in their room or something like that, but they have to deal with that on the student conduct side. But things like drugs, that they'll get arrested and they'll go before a judge, whether they're a student on campus or not.
Thank you so much, Chief, for spending time with us today. And as the new school year begins, I know there's going to be a lot of people on campus, and I know that you'll have a presence there 7 days a week. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Chief Michael O'Neill. He is the police chief of the University of Tennessee at Martin. Hope you've enjoyed this program. Thanks, everybody, for listening on this week's 30 Minutes program.
You've been listening to 30 Minutes, a community affairs program on Thunderbolt Radio. You can listen to this broadcast and others anytime by visiting thunderboltradio.com and following the Thunderbolt Radio and Digital YouTube page. Thanks for listening.